Hey, let's create this login form with React.js together. Now here we practice error handling. So if the format of email or password is not valid, the user is going to get an error. If you submit the form not fixing the errors, you get a toast notification to fix the errors first. But if you fix the errors and if you have both email and password correctly, then you actually get a green notification login successfully. This is a very simple practice for front-end developers, especially for beginners. Are you ready to start? If you haven't subscribed my channel, please hit the subscribe button and let's start. Okay, so first let's create our React app. npm create with latest, and then you put a dot to create the app in the current directory. Now let's use React, and we're going to use plain JavaScript. So use roll down with no, and install with npm and start now, no. And then after you install your React app, you need to install the node modules folder. So I'm going to write npm install, npm install. Very good. Now we can run our React app using the command npm run dev. So our React app is running now on port 5173. So I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to paste it right here in the browser. So you can see that the React app is working. And all right, now let's start with the src folder. I'm going to delete this assets folder. Let's delete this app.css and let's go for the index.css. I'm going to delete it and I'm going to open the app.jsx and I'm going to erase everything inside it. So it's going to be, so we're going to have an empty page, and then using RAFCE, using this React snippets, I'm going to using RAFCE, I'm going to create my React snippets. So this is now my component. If I Control S and save, so you can see the app is here. So let's start our component first. So here I'm going to give this div a class name of app. You know that in React you cannot say class, you should say class name. And inside app, I'm going to create a form. Let's delete this action, and inside the form, I'm going to create a div with the class of form header, and let's create an h1, and we call it login, and let's give it a p, and welcome to Kodiak Academy. So this is the header. Now let's go for the inputs. So let's create a div with the class of input wrapper. Inside input wrapper, I'm going to create a label first, and it's going to be HTML for email. And let's write email here inside the label tag. Now let's create an input. The type should be text. You don't have to make it email. We're going to handle the type actually using React, so you don't have to put it. You don't have to change it to email. Just let it be text, and the ID should be email, and the placeholder should be egjohn@gmail.com. So as you can see, we have our label and input here. So this is the email. Let's go for the password. For the password, I'm going to create another div with the class of input wrapper. Inside that, let me copy this again. We don't have to type everything again. So these emails should be password. So the HTML4 should be password and ID should be password. And instead of John.@gmail, we write enter your password here, 3 dots. Very good. And inside the label, you should change it to password. Very good. Now we need a button. And inside the button, I'm going to write login. And I also need an icon, a login icon next to this login. So for that, I need to install a package called React Icons. So I'm going to npm install React Icons. Perfect, it's installed. You can check in your package JSON. React Icons is installed. And now let's go up above the app.jsx. You can erase this import React from React. You don't need it. And then we actually import fa sign in alt, which is actually the name of the icon. And then we say from React Icons fa, which means actually font awesome. Now you copy this name and let's go to the button, and under login, let's open the tag and let's close the tag. So you can see that the icon shows up here. Perfect. Now we are pretty much done with the HTML. Now let's go for your styling. Let's start with the default styling of margin 0 and padding 0. The box sizing should be border box. Let's give it a font family of Poppins. And if you want this font family Poppins work for you, what you need to do is to bring the Poppins font inside your React project. So let's write font Poppins here. So you should go to Google Fonts Poppins, and then you click on Get Font, and here you should click on Get Embed Font. So either you can use the import and put it inside a style.css, or you can use link and you can just put it inside the HTML. Doesn't matter which way you do. So let's, I just chose to put it inside the HTML. So under up above the title, Poppins, and I paste it right here. Very good. Let me change the title to login form. Very good. Now, perfect. So let's go for the body, and the display should be flex, the justify content center, align item center, and the height should be 100 v height. And the background color should be EB. Very good. Now we have actually, well, our form doesn't have any classes. So let me give the form a class of login form. So I'm going to copy this class, and the login form should have a background color of white and a padding of 25 pixels and a border radius of 8 pixels. The width should be 500 pixels, and the display flex direction, we should turn flex direction to column because we want them to stay up above each other, and the gap should be 10 pixels. Now let's give it a box shadow of 1 pixel, 1 pixel, 15 pixel, 10 pixels, and RGBA 0, 0, 0, and 0.1. Let's say 0.2. Very good. Now let's go for the login form header, which is this part, this div form header. Now we give it a display of flex and a justify content of center and align items of center, and flex direction should be column. And let's go for the login form header and h1, and let's give it a font weight of 800. And for the p tag, let me erase this. We're going to give it a font size of 13 pixels. Let's give it a letter spacing of 1 pixel. And the text transform should be uppercase. And the margin top should be 10 pixels. And let's give it a color of 535353. Very good. Now let's go for the login form and input wrapper, which are these divs that are wrapping our inputs and labels. Input wrapper. So let's give it a padding of 15 pixels and 20 pixels. Sorry, no, it doesn't need any paddings. Let's give it a width of 100%, display of flex, and the flex direction should be column. Very good. Now let's copy this login form input wrapper and let's add the input. Now we need a padding of 15 pixels and 20 pixels. So this is the input should have the padding, but I was actually giving the padding to the input wrapper and that was wrong. So the border radius should be 10 pixels and the border should be none, and the background color EB, which is actually the same as the background color, and the outline should be none. Perfect. Now let's go for the label. The color should be 2C, 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 and the font size is going to be 12 pixels. The text transform should be uppercase, and the letter spacing should be 1 pixel, and the padding should be 4 pixels. So now our labels look like this. Very good. Now we're going to have a class of error, and we're going to use it later. So the error should let me first put the error inside the project, because each as you saw before, each input should have a specific error. Now this error is going to actually be a span. So under this, inside the input wrapper div, under the input, I'm going to create a span, and this span should have the class name of error. Now I'm going to write the email format is not valid. Now you can see that the email format is not valid. It shows up right here. So now let's go and let's design it. The error should have a color of tomato and the margin of 5 pixels from top and left, and from 5 pixels from top and bottom, and 0 from right and left. The font weight should be 500. Perfect. Now I think we're done with the error. Let me create another error for the password. The password. Perfect. So the error for the password should be let me close this one, sorry. So the error for the password should be your password must be at least 8 characters long and include both letters and numbers. So this is how we actually validate our password. Very good. Now the last step of our design should be the button. So let's go for the login form and button. Now the button has no border. It should have a padding of 15 pixels. It should have a border radius of 10 pixels. And the margin top should be 10 pixels. Let's give it a cursor pointer, and let's give it a background color of 2C, 2C, 2C. And let's give it a color of white, and the display should be flex. We're going to give it a justify content center, align item center, and we're going to give it a gap of 5 pixels. And let's give it a font size of 17 pixels. All right, I think we're pretty much done. Just let me make it a little bit responsive. We don't have to do that, but let's just get it done. Screen, media screen, and the max width. So if it's 565 pixels, so let's check it out. Now let's go down. So now this is 560. Now if it is 565, so let's say if it is 560, well, you need to get the login form, and the width should be 400 pixels. So now it's smaller. And if it is 448, yeah, 48. Now it should be 300, and that's it. So let me make it bigger. So it's 500 pixels, and after 565 it gets smaller, and after 448 it gets smaller. All right, now first thing we need to do is to import use state hook. So I'm going to import use state from React. That's it. Now under this line const app inside the function, I'm going to create my use states. So the first one is const email, and set email is equal to use state, and by default it should be an empty string. Now const email valid. So with this use state hook, we're going to actually with this one we're going to check if the email is valid. So set email valid, and we're going to use the use state of null. Use state null, the default value is null. Now for the password, set password, and by default use state, and by default it should be an empty string again. And const password valid, and set password valid, and it should be use state, and by default it should be null. Very good. Now let's validate the email. So the function is const validate email is equal to value. So we actually give value as an argument, and then inside that we create a variable const is valid. So now this variable, this constant, actually for this you actually need to copy and paste this phrase, which actually this is not something that I can explain logically. All you have to do is to just type it out, and you can just take your time and type this expression, and after that you use dot and test value. So we actually, using this method, we actually test the value if it's valid. Now after that we set email valid to the constant of is valid. That's it. Now for the password, validate the password. Let's create we actually do pretty much the same thing. So const validate password, and we actually give it a argument of value, and the const is valid. And now you need to use this expression in order to set the rule of minimum characters should be 8, and there should be both letters and numbers. The password should contain both letter and numbers. And then again you use the test function, and then you put the value inside the function. Now set password valid. That's it. And let's return is valid at the end, and we need to do that because later when we are actually handling the errors, you're gonna just face some problems. So return is valid here. Sorry. So and inside this set password valid, you should put is valid. Sorry, and I forgot this one too. Now, oh sorry, I need to write valid. I had a typo here, so please fix it if you had the typo as well. So now we have two functions, validate the email and validate the password. And now we can go for our inputs. So let's go inside the form, and this input, which actually is the email input, the first input. Now I'm going to let me enter. So the type comes down, the ID, the placeholder, and then we have our value. The value is email. So this is the input for email. And on change, we need to give it an event and then open curly braces and set email to e.target.value. And you know that when we say e.target.value, it means that the value that the user inserts inside the input. So, and then the validate email should be e.target.value. So actually what we are telling the input that you should validate email by the time the user starts typing inside the input. So now for the error is actually hard-coded and it's constantly showing. So let's make it dynamic. So if the user types the email in a wrong format, the error should show up. But if the user types the email correctly, the error should disappear. So let's write if email valid is equal to false and email.trim is not equal to an empty string, then you put another and sign and then you open parentheses. Now you actually take this span, you cut it, and you put it inside the parentheses. So it says if the email valid is equal to false, means if the email is not valid, and if the email is the input is actually is not equal to an empty string, then you need to show this error. Otherwise, you have to hide it. And as you can see, this is now hidden. Now, if I start typing, you can see it shows me the email format is not valid because ASD is not actually an email address. But if I write, for example, Behnam, and you can see that Behnam is not an email address as well. But if I put the @ sign and if I say, for example, Gmail and then .com, now you can see by the time I put the dot and then I write the suffix of the website of the hosting email, and the error goes away. So that's actually what we wanted to do. Test @ hotmail.com. That's it. Now for the password, let's do the same for the password. So we say the value should be password, and on change, let's give it an event and set password e.target.value, which is actually the value that user inserts. Set validate password, and then again e.target.value. Perfect. Now let's go for the the password error. So we do the same thing here. We say if the password valid is equal to false and the password.trim is not equal to an empty string, and now you open parentheses and cut the error span and paste it right inside the parentheses. Now if I type A, you can see the error shows up and says your password must be at least 8 characters long and include both letters and numbers. Oh, sorry, the input actually, the type is text. I have to change it to password. Sorry, and now because it's not safe to use type text for passwords. So I actually typed A here, and by the time I type A, I get this number, and if I write 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, you can see that the error goes away because now my password is valid, because now I have A 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. My password is 8 characters and it contains both letter and numbers. If I start erasing, you can see the error shows up again because the password that currently is inside the password input is not valid. Ben 1 2 3 4 A I. So now, as we showed in the video, we actually want to have a pop-up using react-toastify, and if the user submits the form having errors, a red pop-up should actually show up here, and alert actually should show up here. And but if we actually get the information correct, but if we actually insert the information correctly, it should show us a green message that we actually successfully logged in. Now you know that we have no backend, so this is just what we are actually practicing error handling in Frontend. Later we can actually create a backend API using Node.js, and we can actually make this work. So to do that, let's first install a React package called npm install react-toastify. Let's check. Yeah, react-toastify is installed. Perfect. Now, to make the alert and the message show up, we need to first import this react-toastify, dist react-toastify.css, and you also need to import it using this import toast container toast and from react-toastify. That's it. Now, another thing you need to do is to go down to the app.jsx, and under form right here up above this ending div tag, you need to paste this toast container position top right. So this is actually, you can change it to top left if you want. You can change it to bottom right, bottom left, it doesn't matter. And auto close 3000 milliseconds, which means 3 seconds. So now we need to create a function for that. Let's first create a function for submitting the form. Submit the form, const handle submit, and then let's give it an event. And the first thing we need to do is to use prevent default, because if I submit the form, you can see that the page submits, the page gets refreshed. I don't want that to happen, so I use prevent default, and this actually prevents the form from its default behavior. Oh, sorry, I had to assign this handle submit to this form, so let's go to this form and let's give it on submit, and then we put handle submit inside the curly braces. Now, if I submit a form, you see that nothing happens and the page doesn't get refreshed. Perfect. Now, after we used prevent default, let's create a variable const is email okay. So if the email is okay, we should validate email, and let's put email inside it. And const is password okay. Now if validate password, you need to validate the password. Now if they are okay, so if is email okay, actually if is email okay is not okay, so actually you know that the exclamation mark means has a negative meaning. It means if it's not true. Okay, so if it's not okay, or if is password okay is not true, or if it's not okay, you need to toast error. Please fix the errors before submitting the form, or before submitting. That's enough. Else you should toast success. Now if you use error, the color of toast is going to be red. If you use success, it's going to be green. So we need to write login successful, and that's it. Now if I let me check it. If I type here Vietnam, and if I type here for example 1 2 3 4 5 8 and login, so you can see please fix the errors before submitting, and we can see the errors right here. And if I make it right as signed@gmail.com login, you can see that we have the error yet. But if I put an A here and login, you can see login successful. So thank you guys for watching the video. I hope it was useful for you. If you have any questions, if you had any issues, please drop me a comment. I'd actually be grateful, and I'd be glad to answer your questions. And also I'm going to create another project like this, but this time I'm going to create it with a backend, with an actual backend API, that this login form actually does something, and it redirects us into a dashboard or something like that. So thank you so much, and take care.